quarterfinal, we were playing Russin, and he was in the way when I was trying to pass it to Ma, and Ma's just like quickly like, "Mox, get out of the way." He said, "You say fuck? You say fuck me?" And then he's chasing Ma during the game. I'm like, "Mox, no, leave it."
Hello and welcome back to the RugbyPass Offload with Max Lahiff and Ryan Wilson. Unfortunately, Mark is away this week, and so I will be filling in. But in better news, we'll be joined later on in the show by Australian legend Matt Giteau to celebrate his incredible career. But first, Max, congratulations as in store, sir. A wonderful bonus point victory against Newcastle, taking you off the bottom of the table. How good was it under the lights on Friday?
Oh, lads, what an evening. It was actually a really fun game. Really enjoyed myself. Had Carl Ferns running it back with real zeal. He's actually terrifying on the kick returns.
And someone's knocking at your door. Someone's ringing the bell. Won the postcode lottery. You know that?
Yeah, I know.
Many times, 4 times.
He told me that last year. Joke. How good's that, though?
You've got to get it in there. Sorry, carry on. So you got him. I would be singing that to him all game.
No, I didn't actually do that. It was more me and Gary were having it. Just me and Gary Graham just giving it back. It was quite fun. He kept on tying my laces and stuff. But yeah, it was delicious. Great win. We're building nicely. I feel a change in the culture, you know? You know when you get that sort of the emotional momentum, the team's changing. It's sort of that halfway in the season sort of spot, stuff start changing. But you got to be careful. But yeah, it was great. It was a great Friday.
We were talking about sacking Pat Lam last week or the week before.
Oh, no, you were talking about sacking Pat. You know, like,
was it?
That was the rumour.
Ryan, your Glasgow side still remain unbeaten. The only consistent thing is that as soon as you left the side, they haven't lost a game. The fans will want to know, are you near a comeback?
I fully trained today. Was back out there with the boys. Well, the 15 that are left behind. They've all travelled to South Africa today. But no, the boys are outstanding. Again, look, we're on a run, and I can't wait to get back in there. Next week might be a push. We've got a bit of a break after that, and then it's Munster away. That would be a nice one to get back for, wouldn't it? Munster away. But no, on form. Frustrated that we didn't get the 5 points, actually, because we almost gifted them a bonus point, which kept them above us in the league. But we're moving up there. We're fourth. We're within touch and distance of third. And, yeah, the boys are going good. But I can't wait to be back out there now. I actually, now that I'm back doing normal stuff, like throwing a rugby ball and stuff, Max, I can taste it. I'm nearly there.
The Santi's returning, yeah.
So I'm going to have to rein the drinking back a bit, I think.
Yeah,
you've been gooing a little bit, haven't you? It's been fun, though. It's a good time. There's a little bit of a spiritual renaissance when you get injured, I find. Get out of the monotony of the grind.
Exactly. I will be honest, though. I was very close. I tried to get on the trip to South Africa today. I said, listen, I think the best thing for me is probably altitude training in Joburg, Monte Casino. Like, I thought that'll be good for absolutely nobody. I actually even came home and looked at flights for myself and thought, book my own flights, tell the missus I have to go for rehab. The physios are over there, sunshine, altitude. What more do you need?
Nice, yeah.
But they were like 1,200 quid, so I thought, nah, I'll just stay here.
Well, let's move on to the Six Nations. Big weekend of rugby coming up. I'm sure Ryan's excited about what could be taking place in Paris. But let's start in Cardiff, where Wales, who have been pretty dismal on the pitch, have got huge problems off it. And at the moment, the players are threatening to strike. They've had to delay the announcement of their team until Thursday. Ryan, for somebody who's been living sort of under a shell and not knowing what's going on, can you tell us what the hell is going on? Because this is kind of unprecedented in international rugby.
If this game doesn't go ahead at the weekend, it's going to cost the Welsh Rugby Union 10 million bangers.
Oh, so they know where to hit him.
My butt.
Would you boys be striking?
Fucking right, I'm going on strike. I'm doing the same as the boys.
Yeah. It's been brewing a while, so I guess it was just a matter of time until this capitulated. So yeah, I'm straight on it. Yeah.
Gatland thinks, obviously the game's going to go ahead. He said today he's pretty confident it will. But if Wales needed more bad news, they've got it in the fact that England have been able to recall Tom Curry, Courtney Laws, and George Ford to the squad. Max, on the face of it, even pre this, Wales looked pretty disastrous on the pitch under Gatland after his comeback. Do you see any hope for them? I mean, I know Ryan takes a lot of hope in the chorus of voices in the Principality Stadium. He loves the poetry of it all and the romance. But is there any realistic chance?
I kind of want to get behind the theatricality of sport here and patriotic ecstasy and say that maybe all this adversity will stoke some kind of Welsh inferno. But no, my brain tells me no, they'd be in some trouble.
As much as it pains me to say, I agree with Max. I don't know. I just, like I said, it'd be nice to see them come together over a bit of adversity, but
this is big.
Maybe a bit too much. And you get the other thing is like some people outside the sport going, moaning about getting 100 grand a year. Come on, fucking, but what we do to our bodies. I mean, what a footballer earns that in some footballers earn that in a week.
Yeah, but it's also the fact these guys are playing for Wales. It's like, do you know what I mean? It's not like they're squad players. These are the best players.
No. Well, that's a fucking average player. That's the average. I mean, some of them were down at like 25, 30 grand a year. So
yeah, I think that's another thing that's coming in with in the UK as well as sort of the like in the Premiership is a base salary, so they have to pay because, mate, there is some fruity stuff I've seen. I've seen guys on contracts, right? And they're working for Domino's on the side. Like, that's how bad it is.
Hey, you knock it. I've been thinking to take
that's pro rugby
Uber license.
That's the state of this. It's a joke.
I'd get an Uber license just for a laugh. I quite like talking to people. Just jumping.
Yeah. Just moonlight as an Uber driver, you'd be class at that actually. Just
5 stars.
Just spitting yarns.
Yeah.
Just set the webcam. That'd be unbelievable.
Of course, you can have a beer in the back of the car. Go for it. Like, you can eat those chips. Help yourself.
5-star drives, 5-star. Yeah.
No, I know. I'm with you. I agree. Like, that is the state of it, isn't it? And that's the fucking worry, man. And I suppose the Welsh Rugby Union are trying to do all this because they're obviously in massive financial difficulty. They took out a big old loan, 20 million in debt or something from COVID. So, yeah, it's worrying times for Welsh Rugby.
How bad can it get in Cardiff if the game goes ahead?
I
don't think it'll get bad. I don't think it'll get bad.
I think 20 points in it, 15 points between them.
What? Like that's quite bad. What, you think England are going to put plus 20 on them?
It'll be tight for about 3/4 of the game, and then I think England would break away.
I reckon England will win by 5 points. I think it would be tight.
Well, let's go to Paris, France, Scotland. And Ryan, if you could do us a favour, remind us what happened the last time the Scots were in Paris.
It was a beautiful day, boys. I won my 50th cap against all the odds. Never thought I would get in there for my 50th. Fotu Lokotui injured Matt Ferguson at training. Managed to jump in a Magnus Bradbury's kit, actually. A bit of his kit. I had to wear Nick Caning's shirt because he was number 20 and then he moved to starting in Matt Ferguson's shirt. And, jumped on for 15, 20 minutes at the end. Took us within an inch of the try line just for Hayster to throw that ball to Dewey, and we won for the first time in 20 years. What a way to earn your 50th. But we'll do it again this weekend, I think so. I really do think we're going to do it again. I actually am. People laugh as well, but why not be confident? Why not be confident? Like I said last week, Max, I think the French are slightly wounded.
Yeah.
Slightly wounded. You know, they thought they had that Grand Slam all rolled up, and we spoke about this before the Six Nations. We said whoever goes and wins that Ireland-France game will go and win the tournament. So there we have it. I think Ireland will win the tournament. But I think there's a very good chance that the boys will go over this weekend and win.
Max, the French are going to be hurting after the loss to the Irish. Sean Edwards is not going to let them step off again, surely. Not going to let them play as freely as they were able to in Dublin. Is there going to be a reaction too strong to allow the Scots to have that wonderful victory again in Paris?
I can see it in your eyes, Max. I think you're with me. I actually think you're with me.
I think I am with you. I just don't know whether, like something's a little off with France at the moment. I mean, can they rectify it in 2 weeks? I'm not so sure. Like, and I think the Scotland sort of stock is rising, and I think they're very confident beast right now. So I'm gonna get behind the flower of Scotland this weekend, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm with Rye for once.
Yes, Max.
I hope we don't both chew our
yeah.
words after this, but we'll see how we go. But yeah, I think Scotland right now, like you look across that squad when it started, like everyone's on some kind of real insane form. They got a couple of really like very premier players in some key positions, and I think they're just all on really good form, and the team's so confident. I think something special might be brewing.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Oh, Max, I'm so happy you're with me. I'm so happy with me on that one.
Let's get your predictions then.
I'm going to say Scotland 21, France 19.
Yeah, I was going to go 21-17. So yeah.
And then the final game of the weekend, obviously, the Italians versus the Irish, over in Rome. Italy, slightly impressive in the second half, won that 14-12 against England. Should have beaten the French, but do we give them any chance? I mean, that would be the biggest upset of the tournament, surely, if they got a win at Stadio Olimpico.
That'd be one of the biggest upsets in the last 10 years, let alone this tournament. As many great Australian men have said, I don't see it happening. They're in trouble, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. I reckon Irish are too hot to handle, even in Rome with all that passion. I just don't see them doing it, sadly. And I think the Irish are getting better.
When you say in trouble, what is trouble? I mean, on a scoreboard.
I reckon the Italians might get a couple tries. So I'm going to give them 13 for the Italians, but I'm going 42 for the Irish.
45-10 or something. Yeah, I'm with you.
Well, we're now delighted to be joined by Wallabies legend and one of the greatest rugby players of all time in Matt Giteau. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. How are you enjoying your recent retirement?
It's still pretty fresh. It's pretty good. I think nothing's changed really other than I made the decision. So my life's still the same. Get the kids ready for school, do a bit of training, just trying to stay active. And I suppose I'm just helping the missus out a little bit more now.
It looks like you've now retired twice. Obviously, LA Giltinis will be your last club. You had some great memories there before it all kind of unraveled, but you did win the title. You guys went to Vegas and celebrated dressed as avatars. Can you take us through what happened on that night out?
The night out? No, I can't take you through that. No, but the season was unreal. Like, it was just starting something new. We turned up. The gym wasn't put together. We'd be training next door at this CrossFit gym, and we'd only have 10 people. We'd have to rotate between it. So as the season went, like, our club kind of developed. Like, we had our gym, then we had a meeting area. Then we had chairs that were brought in, which we all had to put together. So it's almost like even your own chair that you sat on in a team meeting was one that we created. So to create that from zero to then winning the title, it was more than an actual club. I think a lot of the players bought into it because we helped build it in some way. But the night out, the actual party afterwards, we were promised if we won, we're going to get a private plane to Vegas. So the boys were more excited about the private plane than they were about winning the title. So it turns out we didn't actually get the plane. So a few of the boys got the bus down. I think we got too late. We carried on too much and partied too much. After the final, we forgot to book the plane. So we had to get a bus with no aircon.
I thought it was more empty promises from the owner.
Well, this was one. I don't know who's to blame for this one, but we didn't get it. But a few of us had the nous to book a flight. I got a flight. There was about 6 others that got a flight down, which was nice. We got a drink on the way. We were pre-planning.
You're a man that loves his fancy dress, I hear, as well. Like, and I mean, properly buys into it. Yeah,
I love it. It
crucial
for me. Well, I think it reflects how much you think of the team. You know, if you buy into any of that culture or any of the themes or fancy dress. Yes, I don't know whether it's something to do with my childhood or what it is, but yeah, I've always prided myself on making a lot of effort. Like, I think it could have even been 4 weeks out. I asked Billy Meeks what the theme was going to be, but they weren't going to name it until closer. But I needed to prep, so I went out, got on Google, saw how to draw Avatar, did all the artwork for me and the boys. Came across all right.
Yeah, bloody hell, I've seen the picture.
Wait, Matt, where does everyone live in LA then? Like, where do you go? All
Matt,
over?
you should see it. I heard about your gaff as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but see, the problem is you're talking to DTH. You're
Hold on,
only going to hear one side of things.
Langy, Adam Ash, Glenn Bryce, DTH, they've all confirmed it. They've all told me the mansion that you lived in.
I don't know if Langy would have dobbed me in like that. Me and Langy, we were tight. So he still tight. I reckon he'd stay loyal. But yeah, it was good. We come in for I was only in for 6 months, and then I'd spend the other 6 months at home. But where we trained was El Segundo, so it was right along kind of the coastal area. We didn't have to deal with the traffic or the city really too much in LA, in downtown. So most of the boys were Hermosa Beach or El Segundo, and Manhattan Beach was a few of us. So I was Manhattan Beach. So every morning we get on our electric bikes, cruise along the Strand. You go along the Strand for about 8 minutes, then it's like 4 minutes inland and you're at training. Like, it was unbelievable. Every morning you're just cruising along the beach. You can't believe you're getting paid. You know, this is what you get paid to do for a living.
Oh, man.
How good.
Yeah, it was unreal.
How far away do you reckon MLR is before it becomes like a proper sort of destination for players to like as a competitive league?
Yeah, I think the hard thing is the salary cap.
Yeah.
So you can't really entice people unless they're at the back end of their career or they needed a change or something's happened where they actually need to take this opportunity, you know, almost like a second chance, purely because the salary cap's 40,000. I think the max you can get from the MLA is 40,000 for a year. To live in LA, if you want to live nice, you're going to need at least that and more. So that's where it gets a little bit complicated. I think they need to take into factor where you live. So for us and Austin, we were given the same budget to live, but for us, 3,000 you could barely get anything a month in LA, whereas in Austin you could get a nice house, you know, for 3,000. So I still reckon there's little parts, if they could relax the salary cap or have marquees where you're allowed to spend a little bit more on players, then maybe you'll see it pick up, similar to what they do with Japan. You know, you're only allowed, I think, 2 out of the 15 can play in your side. So I think that's good because it develops the players, because you're not just training with them, you're actually on the field playing with them under stressful times, you know, that you could be see an opportunity off the cuff, and that's where they learn and that's where they develop. And you see what's happening in the top league. You know, the Japanese national team has just gone from strength to strength since 2015. And I think it's largely to do with a lot of foreign players going over there, but it's also, they still put a lot of development in the local players.
After such great memories on and off the field there over in LA, how did it all unravel so quickly, and how messy have things got since it sort of, you know, comes to fruition?
How quickly it all happened, it happened really quickly. I think obviously Austin got kicked out of the competition. You know, from my understanding, our owner didn't like why they got kicked out of the competition, so he put up a protest. Then off the back of that, we got kicked out of the competition. So it was like we were even for our case to get dismissed, and guys were watching the live feed in court to see if we're actually going to play that week. Yeah, just strange and sad. Like, the boys didn't hear too much. It was just like all of a sudden, everything you've worked for throughout the year is now done and it's over. And then since at the end of it, it's just, yeah, it's been pretty brutal at the back end of it, to be honest. A lot of players, you know, retiring off the back of it, not knowing it was going to be their last game when their last game actually happened. Yeah, so it's just a sad way to end what could have been such an amazing destination to play rugby for such a long period of time.
Talking about being displaced, you warned England that firing Eddie Jones would be a catastrophic mistake. Do you still stand by that? And how happy are you to see him back in charge of the Wallabies?
I'm happy. Yeah, I stand by that. He is someone that meticulously plans. I think the year that we made it to the final in 2003, the Bledisloe Cup, I think, could have been the second game against New Zealand. We lost 55-0 or something like that, 55-10. It was a crazy score. Then semi-final comes around and he's got a new game plan. and were able to beat New Zealand and then push on to the final. So he's just someone that I think, I mean, what's the priority, especially leading into a World Cup year? The priority is to win a World Cup. You got all these coaches that you sign with their goal being to take the team to a World Cup and to win the final. I just thought it was silly to get rid of him so close to, you know, when potentially he may have made changes. He may have lightened the load. He may have, who knows? I don't know. He would have had a plan what he wanted to do. But I think off the back of it, what's come out, the fact that there was no clause in his contract that he could straight away go to a rival team and help them prepare for a World Cup, knowing exactly what England are doing and how they're preparing. So that was, in my read, that's what I thought was probably one of the biggest mistakes. One, letting him go, but then two, the fact that he could just join another national team so quickly. For me, I'm glad. I think it's great that Australia's the one. I'm probably more glad than the players are. They won't know what hit them, these young kids, but even the older players, he has. I think he's got a real ability to change culture so quickly just because he drives such high standards and he's intimidating. As a coach, you don't get, when he walks in, even if he came in my gym right now, I'd stand up and just feel awkward. You feel like you're that 19-year-old boy that he first recruited. So he just has this presence about him. And I think he's going to make some big changes for the Wallabies and for the better.
Well, we've heard that he's got a history of having weird sort of crazy mind games to try and get the best out of his players. Can you tell us your weirdest encounters with him as a player? How he's got the best out of you?
I think I've told this story before. I definitely have told it, but there'd be little things, even at training. So we'd be at training and he's going, nice work, kids, great pass. Look at that, fellas. Look at the way he passes. And then when everyone leaves, he'll come to me and say, he's like, well, why is Elton flatly in front of you? And I was like, you think of everything. I'm like, oh, his passing's better, his kicking's better, his defense is better. Exactly, mate. That's what you need to work on. But he'll only do this when all the players are left. So I'd go back to like dinner afterwards and the boys go, oh, here he is, the coach's pet. He loves him. Little do they know that he's obviously riding me and for a good reason, to keep me grounded, make sure that I work hard and to get better as a player. But in the 2003 World Cup, it was my 19th or maybe my 20th, 21st, I don't even know. It was one of my birthdays. And after training, he came and he said, Gits, I know it's your birthday, mate, but there's no beers. I said, that's fine. Like, we're in a World Cup prep. I won't drink. It doesn't bother me. Like it wasn't something that I was actually looking forward to or thinking that I'd do. Then later on at night, they brought out the cake. Eddie was there, happy birthday. And he's like, Gits, you want a beer, mate? And the other senior guys are around. They said, oh, yeah, we'll get you a beer. I said, no, it's all right. I don't want a beer. He's going, mate, it's your birthday, mate. Have a beer. I'm just thinking, what do I do here? This guy I know told me not to have a drink. Now in front of the players, he's encouraged me to have a drink. Then the players said, we'll just get you a beer, don't worry. I said, please don't get me a beer. I don't want a beer. Like, I'm just going to have my cake and then I'll go to bed. He says, he'll have a beer, mate. Get him a beer. So I'm sitting there. They put a Corona down right in front of me. And then I'm like, what do I do here? If I sip this, am I out? And all the players around there having a drink. Yeah, drink it. I'm like, I can't even remember if I had a drink, but just like those constant games he would have with me, he'd often be just, just little things. Like, it's just always, he'll call you up and he'll say, how'd you think you played, mate? And you're like, well, I can't say that I played well, even though you may have played well. Oh, I should have done this better. And, I probably missed that tackle, or I should have kicked better here. He said, you're being too hard on yourself, mate. You got to have more confidence. But then if you told him, oh, mate, I had a great game, thought your defence was pretty ordinary, mate. So it's just like that type of guy just keeps you guessing, keeps you bouncing, and makes you not feel ever too relaxed or comfortable in that environment. So you're always striving and always going to push yourself, to want to be better. So that's what I always enjoyed about Eddie. The hard thing was that even to this day, if he would go to Suntory training when I was in Japan and he'd turn up to a training session, I feel like I still had to impress him, but he's not my coach. Like, I just never, ever felt easy around him.
It must get fucking draining though, mustn't it? That's what I feel like has happened with England.
Yeah, well, potentially, because he's so intense. I mean, I never experienced that draining factor. For me, it was always you could never do enough to impress him. And I was always, when I had him at a national duty, I was young, so you were keen. You just would be like that all the time. So yeah, I could see your point that it could potentially be draining, but it's certainly, going back to my earlier point that when he comes in, he can change standards. He can change things very quickly, purely off the back of that type of process and that approach that he has.
Do you think he's as he's aged, do you reckon he's changed his approach, or do you reckon it's just remained pretty consistent to you?
He said he's a lot easier. I interviewed him after the Japan-England game, and I asked him about that. I said, after the loss against Argentina, how was the week? Knowing from my experience what the week would have been like. He said, no, mate, I've changed, kids. A lot more relaxed with the players, mate. But who knows? I don't know. I don't really want to find out. I don't need to find out anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Is he the greatest coach you've ever had?
It's hard. He pulled me out of club rugby. So how I first got picked, I was just training with the Australian Sevens team, and I'd just been brought in. And just because Eddie was the national coach, he would go around and train with the 21s, the 16s, and he'd just be present at a session. This was one session he was at. And I don't know what I did or how I trained, but afterwards he told Glenn Eller, who was the manager at the time for Sevens and also the Wallabies backs coach, he said, I really like that kid, the way he trained. And off the back of that, at the end of that year, I was picked to play, I was playing against England at Twickenham. So he gave me an opportunity to make a 20-year career, basically. So I owe Eddie a lot. But I've had so many great coaches throughout the years, all different approaches. I think from each coach, you always learn something new. So it'd be hard to really say that Eddie would be one. He was one that I desperately needed at that point, and he's probably what created the culture of working hard and never being content, which ended up giving me longevity. But yeah, I mean, he was just one of many great coaches that I had. I actually really loved Bernard Laporte in France as well. I thought his honest approach, he got a lot out of me. Early on, after one of the games, he just said, we will never win a title while we have you in the team. You don't tackle, because I missed a tackle against Racing, and in front of the whole team, which is French style, he just calls you out. He says, we'll win nothing with you. And I was just sitting there just looking for somewhere to hide. But then after that, you think about that stuff in the game. You're like, I don't want to be embarrassed here. So you really focus on making your tackles. And yeah, I don't know. I think I like the honest, tough coach, where while it's always uncomfortable, at the end of that uncomfortableness, you kind of do grow and do get better as a player rather than someone that pats you on the back, all the time.
Well, let's go to that debut. Obviously, a year out of college, a year after making your professional debut for the Brumbies, you were running out at Twickenham. Can you take us through your memories on and off the field? And I don't think we've actually probably ever heard what the Australian initiation was back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I reckon we'll leave that one as well. That can go with the Vegas story. No, so I actually played Test footy before Super Rugby. So I didn't even have a Super Rugby contract. That's how quickly I was pulled out of kind of nowhere. Like I was playing under 19 local level the year before. Then a year on, I was making my debut, for the Wallabies. So the daunting part for me was I didn't even have teammates. So everyone at the Wallabies, if they were from Canberra, they were signed to the Brumbies, but I didn't know them. Like Stephen Larkham, George Gregan, Dave Giffen, like Bill Young, Owen Finnegan, these rock stars show off like you could just keep rattling them off. I didn't know any of them. So I felt uncomfortable. I was watching them maybe 4 months earlier at Super Rugby, going there having a few cans with my mates. So that was daunting in itself, just meeting these guys. I was constantly nervous throughout that whole tour. But then the actual game, when I got my opportunity, I came on, I think with 8 minutes to go, we were down by a point, and we ended up staying down by a point. So Eddie Jones had a system at the time for everything good you did, you got plus. Everything bad, you lost a point. So if you hit a ruck, plus points. You drop a pass or you drop the ball or a bad pass, bad kick, you're -1. I finished that game at -4 after 8 minutes, and I didn't have many involvements. So it was a rude shock for me. It's still a record, not one that I'm proud of, but I think it was actual memories of the game. I kind of remember, I think throwing a bounce pass out in front for Stephen Larkham. I think Bernie then got moved to fullback. But then after that, it's all a blur, really. I just remember coming off the field embarrassed and just going like, oh, shit, like, that's it. Like, because I didn't have a Super Rugby contract at all. So I'm like, I think everyone's found out I'm a bit of a fraud now. Like, because I got pulled up from club football, never felt like I belonged in the test arena. And then I got given my test. And then afterwards, I just remember feeling like the whole world now knows that I don't belong, like, in professional rugby. So I had to go back, study, work hard, and didn't even think really about football. But the next week, got an opportunity again against Italy, had some more positive involvements. We won that game. So I kind of left that tour feeling better, but still didn't feel like I had a contract. And came back, the Brumbies gave me a contract. Usually the Wallabies get 6 weeks off, so you get that Christmas period off. But Eddie sent me straight back, obviously because I needed to. So I was back training as soon as I got back from that.
See, when you're that age, how were you? Like 19?
19, yeah.
Fucking all the way across the world, you haven't really had a professional rugby career yet. Like, were you still the way you are now? Say when you were like 28, were you thinking, oh, I might nip out for a beer, or did you have a completely different mindset?
Then no.
And also, who did you room with?
So early on, we got to Argentina, and me and my mate here used to stripe our eyebrows. And so I got there and I was like, oh, I'll just do that. Like, not thinking, like, to me, representing your country, like, it's not about your image or like what you do off the field and how you present yourself. So I turned up, had this striped eyebrow. Eddie's just looked at me and said, hey, what the fuck is that, mate? And then I was just like, Phil Thompson came quickly over, almost like to get in between us. It was almost like he's gonna flog me, like he was my old man. So Phil Thompson, who was the manager at the time, came in and said, mate, you need to go dye that. So for the rest of the tour, I had these super black eyebrows just to get rid of the bleach. But I mean, everything. I couldn't even tell you what the game plan was. I wasn't really even at that level. I know that I wasn't ready for that level. It wasn't until maybe halfway through the World Cup the next year that I actually felt like I belonged on the professional stage. And that was after a full year of Super Rugby.
Who took you under their wing on that first tour then?
Because my first surely one of the old Wendell boys. Saylor.
Sorry?
Big Dell.
Big Wendell Saylor. He was my first roommate. And so I'm texting my mates back and I'm like, you wouldn't believe who I'm rooming with. And this was like superstar, rock star Dell. He just come over from rugby league, his gold earrings and his Oakley, like those real ordinary shades. You look at them now, but at the time they were money. And he was a showman and I thought this is going to be unreal. This week will fly. As soon as we get back to the room, aircon on, TV on, he's just like, be quiet. Big Delta's got to get his energy back. So he's just like a superstar that would put on a show, dancing for the boys in the warm-up. You just think, this is who you want to room with. But then when you get back to the room, he's a different person. So that was also, that was a bit of an anticlimax when I was with the Big Del. I still talk to him about that all the time. I said, you're a good man for all the cameras, but then when you get behind the doors, you're a different man.
Did you ever consider playing rugby league?
I did, yeah. So my dad, he played professional rugby league. My brothers, they love rugby league. My whole family is, league family. My brother could be playing second grade, and I just won a test for the Wallabies, and Mum will feed him first. Rugby league is our sport in the family. So early on, I was playing like local or like Raiders, but at a lower level, like just your juniors. And then same old story, like in league, they were big and stronger, and they just said physically, you're too small for us to pick you. So then I focused on rugby, and it worked out well for me. There was one chance, I think in 2005, my dad got a call from the West Tigers just to gauge my interest. But I think financially at that stage, the league wasn't even close to rugby. So Dad just said, sorry, he's not in the ballpark. So that was probably as close as I got to ever going to league.
A year after making your debut at Twickenham, you're playing in a World Cup final. You come on relatively early to replace Larkham. Are you still haunted by Wilkinson's antics that day?
No, but I wish there was one. So he upended me early on. I think it might have been a bad ball from Griggs. He gave me a hospital, but so Jonny obviously is a big hitter, but he had a nerve issue, I think, in that World Cup. Then the second time when I ran, I remember it was like down the right-hand touchline a little bit, and I just jinked a little bit, and I think he was down for a while. And his nerve, I think it was his nerve potentially that was down. So I was thinking, this is legendary. I'm going to knock out this guy, then Larkin will come back on, we'll win the game. Obviously, the story's a little different, but yeah, that World Cup for me, everything, I'd come into a really successful Wallabies lineup. So just winning was part of the culture. I didn't really even think about it. Like, we lost the final, I was shattered, but I just thought, oh, next World Cup we'll win it. Like, then 2007 we get knocked out in the quarters. 2011 I don't make it. I'm in France. After that in Toulon, I'm like, shit. Those opportunities, they don't come around too often, and I kind of did take it a little bit for granted. So when I finally got an opportunity to come back and play for the Wallabies in 2015, and we're in the final, I really soaked that up. But unfortunately, it really stung me probably a lot more to lose that one.
Do you think Wilkinson should have got a red card for his tackle on you or not in the final?
Oh, well, a red card for that, or the fact that he never ran the ball, or he didn't really set up any of his players. There are a lot of things that Jonny should be red carded. But yeah, I think the thing that sits well with me is when I got to Toulon, I saw how hard he practiced. And even though he kicked that field goal with his wrong foot, a lot of people potentially say, oh, maybe he was lucky. It would have been more lucky had he missed for us, because at training, he would hit that 9 out of 10 times. So if he did actually miss, it would have been lucky for us. So that kind of eased the pain a little bit more to know that it wasn't a fluke. It's something that he practiced. He worked hard. He was pretty diligent and a good fella, unfortunately. I really wanted to hate him when I got there. But he's just such a nice fella.
Talking about that 2007 World Cup, obviously you get knocked out by the English again, but later that year you get the honour of being called up to play for the Barbarians. You score against world champion South Africa, but forget about the on-field antics. Tell us about who was the best value off the pitch, because apparently it's the loosest week of any player's life.
Yeah, it's a tough week, that one. I think mentally you've got to be prepared, because you have a few drinks Sunday, you get together Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, I think, is your last real crack. Thursday, you might have a couple of beers, unless you're Andy Powell. Like, he'll crack again. He goes again Thursday. Friday, you do your captain's run walkthrough, and that's when it becomes a reality. You're like, shit, we got a test tomorrow, and it's not just any old test. Like, we're playing the world champion. So when you're warming up, you're just like demons. You're just fighting a lot of demons. But as soon as you get into the game, you get hit and you start to compete. We're surrounded by some good players. Then we had Ma Nonu, who could have been our centre, that one. On the wing, we might have had Joe Rokothoko, Drew Mitchell, I think. Drew was in that squad. I played that many Barbarians. And with Drew, the weeks are so blurry that I don't know if he was involved that week or he wasn't. But more often than not, that's the idiot that'll carry the team that week. Like, he'll cut his hair, like at 3 a.m, wake up and look at it. He needs to obviously reconsider that. He was just, for me, he was just good value. He was always on, always bringing the energy. And he's always someone that when he's hungover complains the most. So you always feel better. Like those guys, he's like, oh, I'm in so much pain. And he's like, okay, well, at least I'm not that bad. And it makes you feel a bit better. So he's someone that I love having around.
Wedged between the 2007 and obviously that disastrous 2011 World Cup, we find ourselves in Edinburgh in Murrayfield 2009. Yourself.
This is just talking about. This is all for the UK. Obviously, England beating us at the World Cup. Scotland. I shouldn't have to pay for a drink ever again in Scotland.
Well, you found yourself kicking for glory to stop Scotland winning against the Australians for the first time in 27 years. For those who don't know what happened on that day, can you tell us what unfolded?
I think I slipped, or the turf gave way, or no, it was just Yeah, I don't know. A pretty straightforward conversion. Yeah, I sprayed it to the left. Yeah, that was pretty tough week. That was a long week. Talk about long weeks in sport. That week after Scotland was a long week, but luckily we were heading to Wales, and it's a good place to finish. So we had a good win there. But yeah, yeah, I mean that might have been at the end the difference between winning and losing. But throughout the game, I did so many bad things that probably didn't stand out as much as that kick. So they definitely deserved the win, and I think, the Scottish, they've always got a soft spot for me now.
2010, I mean, you got to play against some of the most terrifying players ever to play the game, but 2010, you're playing against Fiji in Australia, and you were victim to 3 of the biggest hits ever recorded. It's a viral video on YouTube. 2 resulted in post-match bans. Can you tell us, was that the most painful 80-minute outing you've ever experienced against anyone?
Anytime you play the Fijians, it's painful. Like, you go, say you take the ball to the line, you put someone through a hole, they just show that person then going through and scoring. But more often than not, you've been cut in half. Like, the Fijians are just made of concrete every time. So it's a test you're expected to win. But for me, every time you play in those Pacific Islanders, it was always just such, mentally such a big battle, because you obviously had a game plan and there was a way you wanted to play, but you knew there was going to be a lot of pain coming with that. I actually didn't know. Did those players get suspended, did they?
2 of them
Off the
did,
back
yeah.
of that?
Apparently so.
Yeah, right.
I'm with you. Have you ever played the Fijians over in Suva? Have you ever played them in Fiji?
No, thank God we never actually did that.
Yes, I'm telling you that, as they say, different gravy, because we played them over there with Scotland, and I'm telling you now, those boys were on another level in Suva in front of their home crowd. Tuisova's first ever game, and I've never seen a man end people like he did, like the proudest day of his life, representing the Flying Fijians after all the chat of him maybe signing for France and stuff. And
He's the daddy, isn't he?
it was fucking. It was actually one of those games at the end where you're like, fuck, fair play. Like, I don't mind that we lost against them. They've done all right there.
Oh, yeah, but at home too. Like, I could only imagine. It's almost like, the results aside, how many people they can kill. That's what's going to send the crowd happy.
That's what it felt like. On their pitch in Suva as well, like fucking sucking in flies left, right, and centre. Oh man!
But then the nicest people off the field. It's almost like they would never hit me late when you talk to them at the aftermatch. But then once you get on that field, yeah, they're beasts. I mean, you talk about Josh Tuiasova. When he came to Toulon, I think he was 92 kilos and he'd not touched the weight. But you could see he had a bit of power about him. After that preseason, he was 108. He just piled it on.
Oh, so you were there for the beginning?
Never seen anyone like that. I was there from the beginning, when he first came in,
Jesus.
And he was flighty, he would step, never really run over people. And then he learned his power. And you couldn't coach him to run the hole. He'd rather run over people.
Sits more people down than a game of musical chairs. It's mental.
It's just like, what a phenomenal athlete. Just to look at him. He blows up quick, though, in the fitness. Yeah. If his heart's not in it.
That's a lot of attention. Yeah.
Gitz, you mentioned it earlier, but 2011 World Cup, you're obviously left out sensationally. I mean, it comes as a massive surprise to everyone. You react with some hilarious tweets. But can you tell us in hindsight how livid you were? And also, were you surprised? Did you see it coming at all or not?
Kind of. I did see it coming a little bit. Purely because I didn't play any of so I played that first test against Samoa and we lost. They beat us at home. Then we went into, I think it could have been Tri-Nations. I don't think it was Rugby Championship. Then it was Tri-Nations, yeah. And I just held the bags all week, like all tournament. And I'd go back and I said to Robbie, should I go play club footy? And he's like, do what you want. So it wasn't really like I was getting a good response, like, yeah, that'd be good for your development or something like that. So I kind of did see it coming. Then like 2 days before the team was getting announced, it could have been the day they were coming back from South Africa. And I got flown up from Canberra to meet with him. And I'm in the room and he's just sat down. And he's like, we've gone with a 17-13 split. Like, so 17 forwards, 13 backs, and you're not in it. I was like, okay. and there were staff walking in and around. The players were there. I was a bit embarrassed. Didn't handle it well because before that, even if I was in form or not, whether it was the right thing or not, the coaches had backed me, and I'd always played test footy. So it was just, for me, I didn't handle it well or react well. I was a bit kind of bratish about it now reflecting on it, but I just asked him, I said, well, why did you fly me up here? Like, why am I flown up here? He said, well, just out of respect, just to, your career with the Wallabies, just trying to show you some respect, tell you face to face. I said, well, if it's about respect, then why is staff walking in and around here, listening to our conversation? Why is it not just the two of us? And I said, when can I fly out? He said, well, we've got you booked flying out tomorrow. And like that morning, the next morning, so I was still rooming with a player that got picked in the squad. So automatically it's awkward for Digby. I was with Digby only. And then the next day they were doing their team shots. And I was just supposed to wait in the foyer while they're doing we've made the World Cup, and then I'd fly back with any of the guys. So I just asked if he could change my flight quickly. So they changed it. I got out of there, grabbed my stuff. Then I just tweeted, that's it. Like, thank you, linesman, thank you, ball boys, or something. And I was close to getting fined actually from the AAU because I made an announcement about the squad before they'd made it. So that could have really been a double whammy there, but luckily I didn't get it.
You then head straight to Toulon. We've heard from many players who've come on this podcast that French rugby back then was still quite unprofessional. Can you take us through the long lunches, the drinking, the smoking? I mean, were you quite shocked by that coming from the professional setups in Australia?
There wasn't too much of that. The only thing that was quite amateurish was like the day before we would take an 8-hour bus trip to Agen, like be playing at 2:00. We get in there at 9:00. Like you wake up and you're pretty much into it again. It's almost like they didn't give yourself the best opportunity to play well, but they expected you to play well. So that was kind of the hardest thing to adjust to, especially on away games. But the weirdest thing I ever seen, like early on, was quite confronting when I was in. One of the physios, there's a player on all fours, I can't name him. Well, I don't want to name him, but he was on all fours and he had a real bad back issue, like to loosen it up. And this is not a word of a lie. The physio there, he's a great fella. Bit alternative, but he's had a glove on and he was just releasing him through the back, and apparently it just made a big difference. But it wasn't like hidden.
What?
I'm like walking in right there. So I'm walking into the main area, and you've got little areas where you can go and be blocked privately. But this is just like in front of all the boys, and it's almost like, that French, like they're just.
It was Stefan, wasn't it?
I got a back issue. This is what's happening.
Yeah, what does his name rhyme with?
Stefan Armitage, definitely Stefan.
Ronnie Wilkinson. No, it definitely wasn't Jonny. I can't have that kid now.
Give us like an idea of that backline, your favourite backline that you would have played with at fucking Toulon, because it is crazy. Some of the boys that were there when you were there.
Yeah, I mean, we Sebastian Tillis-Board was our 9, Jonny 10. The second time when we had Drew coming over, so we had Rudy Wolf and Alexi Palisson on the wings early on. But then the second year had Drew Mitchell, Brian Abana, Dylan Armitage fullback, myself and Bustero in the centres. And when Jonny left, I went to 10 and Halfpenny came in. So we, the players that we had, each training session was like a good competition because we'd often be playing some type of game. Every player really loved to compete. They try and outsmart each other. You try and one-up people. I think that was the best thing about that environment. Everyone supported each other, and it was you're always so close when you're foreigners and you're away from home. Everyone bonds just a little bit tighter. But at training, there was just some great competitions, like a lot of sledging. At the back end of the career, like then Martin Nonu come across Toulon, like him and Buster together. It was, it's just, the amount of players, but even up front, like the forwards we had, like Carl Heyman, Bakkies, Danny Rousseau, Juan Smith, Steph Armitage, Chris Marceau, Dwayne Van Meulen, players that we had rotating through there.
It is hilarious.
At the time, you don't appreciate it, but now when I come back and I see, like, someone will send me a grab of like the second Heineken Cup final team when we won that, you look at the list, you're just like, well, we probably should have won, like, but at the time you don't, like, it's just your teammates.
Other than your Aussie mates, who was the loosest out of them all?
Definitely.
Yeah, Steph was up there, but see, Steph didn't really have Steph Armitage. He's a bit of a power athlete, so he would go super hard, and then you just see him asleep like an hour and a half, 2 hours in.
Yes.
Dylan Armitage had some stamina. Chris Marceau was really good for the team culture. He'd always be playing the music, always at his place is where he'd host the beers, and I think it was just a really good. Carl Heyman was always pretty keen on a few cold ones. Like, it was just, I think the best thing about that in France, and especially for me coming from Australia, was you were judged on how you performed, and the crowd, because they love rugby so much, they would. It's almost like if you picked up, I get in a baguette on the Sunday morning after a bad game, they're like, oh, what was that? Like, your line out was no good. Why didn't you kick for touch? Like, they feel some type of ownership about it. But when you're winning, they're obviously super supportive, but they only ever judged you on your rugby. They would never say, oh, because I saw you Thursday having a drink, or Wednesday you were having a drink, that's why you played poorly. That's not what they'd say. They just judge you on your performance. And that was super refreshing, because as professional athletes, and a lot of those guys that we had there have won big titles, and they're competitors, they pride themselves on their performance as well. So you knew that part hurt them. But still, when we got away from football and away from rugby, it was almost even encouraged by Bernard Laporte. I was talking about when he really had a go at me in front of everyone. We'll win nothing with you. You can't defend. No wonder Australia got rid of you, this type of stuff. But then when we go out to the bar, after that, we'll go for a drink where there was like a team sponsor event, and he'd send over a bottle of vodka and he'd be smiling there, having a drink. Like, it was just, you're judged on footy, and it was so refreshing. I loved it.
So you could go down, have your baguette, sit with your double espresso on a Saturday morning, couple of Marlboro Reds.
Yeah, that's where my smoking really took off.
And what about Bastro, by the way?
That.
Was Bastro loose?
No, Buster. Yeah, Buster liked a good time. I think everyone liked a good time. But the good thing was, when it came Monday or Sunday, like, the boys would front up, and you could tell the ones that had a few drinks, because they were the first ones in, sweating it out with a mask on, and just, like what professional footy players do. You give yourself the best opportunity to play your best rugby on the weekend, and then you enjoy yourself after it. So it was just a really good environment.
Was there any guy that in that team? Obviously, there was a lot of like special humans there. Was there any guy that inspired you, like, in a weird way, like gave you some sort of novel insight into how to approach life and rugby, etc.?
I think Jonny was
the
one that comes to mind. Like, for a guy that he'd won a World Cup with his wrong foot. He's won, but still how hard he would work. Even certain things, like the night before a game, we would text each other. He's like, it's almost like we needed to reinforce to each other. It's like, early on, I reckon we look at this. He's like, yeah, I reckon that too. Maybe defensively, we'll try and do this early on. So it was almost like we try and G each other up. So I used him a lot in the first couple of years that I was there. Obviously, him being bilingual as well at the time was easy for me, because he'd be talking and then he could translate it, or we'd speak in English, and even broken English, Buster understood. So I leaned on Jonny a lot. But yeah, just his work ethic. Like, I always prided myself on, like, working hard, every day, like, giving it a go. But it's just, he's someone that I just could not that I wanted to compete with him, but he's just someone that he would never go in a game fresh. So I always flog myself early in the week, and then I'll taper off so that I feel like, I'll give myself the best opportunity to prepare for a game. Whereas he will kick maybe 100 goals, or we'd be waiting on the bus to travel somewhere, and he's still kicking. He gets on the bus. I'm like, mate, what are you doing? Like, you've kicked all week. He said, yeah, but if I don't kick this amount, I'm not going to be as confident in the game. And it would just blow my mind that someone who's kicked a World Cup, winning field goal off his wrong foot, never really missed a kick. Like, he very rarely has a bad kicking game, needs to kick 100 kicks before we're heading to some small town in France for a top 14 regular game. Like, it was madness.
Just to finish on your teammates there at Toulon, It seems every person who comes on this podcast says that Bakkies Botha is the most terrifying person they've ever come across. What was he like as a teammate? Was he as terrifying as we've heard?
No, not really. Like obviously once he got on the pitch, he was someone that you wanted on your team because he was just a bit of an enforcer. But off the pitch, he just liked his bries and he was pretty relaxed. He's very frustrating to learn French with. So early on, when we got there, so we're sitting with the teacher and you've got to do it all together. And then she'd start with 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and he's writing. And then she'd say, okay, so bonjour, ça va? Like, hello, how are you? And then we're learning that. He said, listen, Prof. Can you go back to that 1, 2, 3, please? Because all he wanted to learn were numbers for lineouts. After that, he said, hey, Gits, I'm not here to learn French, eh? I said, mate, like, he just wanted his lineouts and that's it. So the whole first 2 lessons, we're just learning numbers. And I'm just going, this is too much. So I got myself a private tutor, but yeah, from a teammate point of view, he was great. He was friendly. He was happy. Before we're about to run out, he's got his legs crossed and he's bidding on cattle, that he wants for his farm. That was the type of guy he was, like genuinely. Before big games, he's like buying Impala or whatever else for his farm. But then when he gets across that white pitch, like the white line, he's madness.
Gorgodze, was he there when you were there as well?
Yes, Ad Mooks, he's a great fella.
But a lovely bloke off the field, but dangerous man on it.
He's terrifying. So he's someone that we were with quarterfinal. We were playing Racing, and he was in the way when I was trying to pass it to Ma, and Ma's just like quickly, like, you just talk quick in a game. You're not meaning any disrespect, and he's just like, Mooks, get out of the way. He said, "You say fuck? You say fuck me?" And then he wants to chase, chasing Ma during the game. I'm like, Mooks, no, leave it. This is in the middle of our shape, quarterfinal. Playing Racing. But he didn't understand that Ma was just like, it was almost like, oh, Mooks, can you get out of the way? But he was just, because he was saying it quick, there was a swear word in there. It lit up with Mooks and you could just see his eyes roll over. He's a lovely fellow too, but yeah, he is mad. That's one guy I reckon you don't want to cross.
Fucking Georgians, man. The Georgians.
Yeah. Unsurprisingly, your incredible form for Toulon obviously resulted in you getting rewarded with a recall to Australia by the new coach, Michael Cheka, obviously naming the Giteau law after yourself. We've heard from Drew, James O'Connor and the like that Chex was actually as crazy as Eddie Jones with his motivational tactics and his weird and wonderful one-on-ones. Can you tell us your weirdest sort of recollections or moments with him?
I didn't get it. This is the one coach that I had almost like a man-to-man relationship with, because he approached me to come back and play for the Wallabies, but at the time you had to play Super Rugby, and I'm like, look, Check, I really would love to play for the Wallabies again, but my family's so settled here in France and it can't happen. He said, I'll try one more thing, and he tried that. 60 caps, it means that you've put 8 years into the jersey, so you've kind of earned your right to go overseas, and it got passed, so myself and Drew were lucky to go back. But from early on, I'd not played Test footy for 4 years, so I didn't know if I was at that level. I didn't want to, because you come across players that when they're playing poorly, out of respect, you won't say it to them, but it's almost like they're not at that level. So I didn't want that to happen. So I went to him early. I said, look, Jack, if I'm not at that level, please don't, just encourage me along. I'll just go back to Toulon. I'm happy. I'll give it a crack. And if it doesn't work, I'm not at that level, please just let me know. So we were always honest with each other, and he, things worked out well. I got to play, but it never really, I never really got any of his weird talks or anything really crazy. It was always like I had a lot of respect for him, and obviously very thankful that I got to come back and get to 100 caps. But I never had any crazy run-ins with him other than, your normal, he'd be saying, well, what about the players? Are they happy? And I'd just say, look, mate, we've been getting flogged. Like, I think the boys just want a day off or just a night just to have a few beers and relax. He said, it's fine. I've never said you can't have beers, but the next day I'll get you. I said, well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, we want to be able to have a few drinks and then not have to back up and get flogged in the morning. So then he said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll compromise. Tonight at the meeting, I'll ask the boys if anyone wants a night out, just to put your hand up and we'll go from there. He asked the boys, only myself and Drew put our hands up. All these boys were telling me. So from then on, I just said, okay, I'm done. Like, I'm not going to push that case anymore. The boys had their chance. But that was it. That was my only really, other than that, it was always pretty straight up in front. Like, I could just be honest with him and say exactly how I was feeling, and he'd tell me his expectations. Like I was saying earlier, he's a real honest man. He's very passionate, Lebanese guy. He just speaks from, his heart's on his sleeve, and I kind of respect that because there's no hidden agenda there. He would tell me, okay, you didn't play well. Sweet, I know I didn't play well. Like, or that was good. And you're like, okay, that was good. Like, it was just what he said, I could take on face value and believe him.
What's sort of your favorite environment to be in? Is it like a player-led one, or do you want like a sort of authoritative coach, or do you want like more autonomy on like how you act, or like how heavy should a week be, etc.?
I personally like where the week's already scripted up, like it's all done, drawn up, you know exactly what you're doing. And then you've got wiggle room in there where coaches will listen, depending on what they want to get out of it. If they just want to flog you, then I think as a senior player or as a player, you've got to cop it. You front up and you know what that's about. But when it's about maximising your preparation and getting ready for the weekend, then senior players, because I say senior players because they've got the most experience and they've been there. Through experiences, you find out what works, roughly for a team. So I kind of like a blueprint. And then on a Monday, you'll get together. This is what we're looking to do at training this week. Monday, Tuesday is going to be a heavy day. Wednesday off. Thursday, more speed execution. And then you can twist it throughout that. That's kind of how I like to operate, especially at the back end of my career, because that's, like just trying to maximize what you do on the weekend is the most important, not how well you train on Tuesday. So it's just trying to, just trying to get yourself ready for that. That was the best environments that I liked.
Do you fancy coaching?
You look at Dave Reddy, Eddie Jones, like there's no longevity, there's no security in it. I've travelled for so long with my family and asked them to sacrifice for so long. It'd be such a selfish decision, I reckon, to do. I still enjoy rugby. I love talking rugby. I enjoy doing some stuff with Amazon Prime for those autumn internationals. That was good fun. But so I still would love to stay connected with rugby, but I don't think in a coaching capacity where, like 1 week you're world beaters, the next week. I just think if you're going well, you're doing your job. And then if the team's not performing, then you and your family, you're on the chopping block. So it's just, I don't know, it's pretty cutthroat.
Yeah, it is, eh? And you're on, I reckon, even worse a schedule because when the boys have finished training, you're in there doing all the analysis afterwards, still travelling as much with the team.
Yeah, exactly right, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. We had Adam Ashley Cooper, my second year in LA, was our backs coach. He ended up buying these stupid glasses. I was supposed to take the glare off because he was getting migraines from how much work he was doing. But he would be in there at 7, he'd be out at 8. And even he found frustrating, like the amount of prep that he would do. And then on the weekend, it might not get installed or they might not. It was just I don't know, it just seemed like a really stressful environment to be a coach. And this is in LA too, where the MLR is pretty hidden, like compared to your Super Rugby or even over in the Premiership or Test footy. Like it is, the preparation's next level. And I think if you want to be good at something, you've got to apply yourself. And I just don't think that my mindset is ready to go that crazy, almost 16-hour days every day of rugby. I'd end up hating it.
Gitz, I want to quickly take you back to 2015 because you met Her Majesty the Queen at Buckingham Palace during that tournament, and I hear you got very close and personal with her. Can you tell us what happened at that drinks reception?
I think it was actually 2009. So she'd walk around, she's got a server with a glass, and it just looked like there's water in it. And the server put it down, and I'm just standing there, and as always, kind of around Drew. But Drew's almost like that bad devil there, and I'm the good one. So he was like,
"Fucking hell, that's worrying."
Yeah, I know. He's like, "I'm going to have a crack at this at the Queen's drink. I'm going to see what she's doing." I said, "Mate, you cannot do that. Like, I'm looking around for like cameras, like, but you've got security everywhere." So I'm automatically just like in panic mode, not enjoying myself. Like, would have been so obvious how I'm blocking and doing all this. So we kind of huddled around where he was. He reached up and on the silver tray, he's just grabbed a drink, put it down. He's like, "Oh, He said, mate, that's straight gin. I was like, no wonder she loves coming to these events. Like, she's just every time she's got that nice glass, straight gin. I think it could even be Gordon's gin. Then when I saw that he got away with it, I've just, like then the anxiety's lowered a little bit better. So I went down, had a little sip, a bit of a go at it. And that was pretty much as far as we got. But Drew basically is claiming that he kind of could see where the lips were on the glass, and he's kind of aimed his lips on the exact same position. So he's kissed the queen. I stay well away. Like he's next level creep, that fella.
Licking the lipstick off the cup. Oh,
yeah. Actually, yeah, he was licking it. Yeah, he's licking it. No, but I mean that type of stuff. It was that was good. It was before social media or any of that was around, so we kind of got to really experience, I suppose you get to know each other, and you got a lot more memories before social media, came around.
You lived the best era, best era of rugby.
Yeah.
Like at the
I like to think so too, but you got the current guys as well that they would be enjoying it. They're more into their social media and whatnot. But yeah, I mean the memories, the stories that you can or can't tell, but it's just like it was just a fun time, and you're just playing rugby, like it was unreal.
Yeah, it's last couple of questions, but we have to touch on that 2015 World Cup final. Having lost the one in 2003, you lead your team to the final, and then you have heartbreak having to come off relatively early in the match. If you stayed on, do Australia go on to win the World Cup? I think so.
Well, I'm flattered that you think so. No, I mean, I think New Zealand had such a good team. They've been so dominant for so long. We definitely felt confident that we could do the job. We were building nicely into that. I think the hardest thing for me to take was obviously I really did soak up the week, the atmosphere, even like your water bottles they're a gold water bottle once you're playing in the final. So little things that are different. The thing that probably stung me the most was the fact that I didn't really get to compete or have a crack for 80 minutes. I still remember even like the head knock. I remember running off. I remember talking to the independent doctor, but she just wouldn't test me. So she said, I've looked at the footage and I'm not going to test you. And I said, but you have to test me. I said, I can tell you everything. I said, it's a World Cup final. Like, this is what I've waited. Well, 12 years was the last time I was in a World Cup final. So, and she said, sorry, I can't do it. So that was pretty shattering from a personal level. But then obviously see the boys compete so hard. I mean, to get the experience to play in a World Cup final, I didn't think I'd play for the Wallabies ever again. So there's a couple of silver linings in there. But yeah, that was a pretty tough one to take. And the fact that I didn't get tested, and I don't know, it's probably for the better. But yeah, that was a pretty tough one.
After Toulon, you ended up in Japan playing for the Suntory Sunglass, where you became the best paid player in the world. That must have been...
Allegedly. Is that in that paper again?
Allegedly.
Really? Is that not true?
The yen is strong.
I don't know what other players were getting paid, but I was paying the bills at that time.
I was up there.
It was a lot of yen.
There you go,
it was a lot of yen.
That must have been an incredibly special experience, though, especially off the field. Just give us your sort of highlight as you look back on that period.
There's so many highlights. My kids went to a Japanese school. They didn't know anything, but they would go there, have unreal times. I don't know, just the Japanese people are unbelievably friendly, accommodating. They want you to enjoy their country. They're super proud of it. I remember one stop, I couldn't make it. I didn't know where I was going. And one of the ladies there, she could speak a little bit of broken English, and she said, "Oh, where are you?" And I tried to show her where I lived. It was written in Japanese, so I couldn't even read it. So I didn't know where to go. She followed me 4 stops to make sure I got there, turned around, and then went back home. And this was like late at night. This is just a small example of actually what they do. I've lost my passport with like a bit of yen in there, my credit cards, everything on a train. Realised like 4 stops later, went the way back to the main station where stuff's handed in, and it was there. Everything in there, it almost looked like it had been cleaned. I just don't think that stuff happens in many other countries. It's just, it was a really good experience, very refreshing, very different. very rule based compared to what I experienced in France. But yeah, it was a really good. That first year I really enjoyed, and we won the title, so it was almost like a big relief to me from a rugby sense, because the year before they went unbeaten and they won. So coming in as a new signing, you kind of really want to add to what they've already got.
I hear the Japanese, like the players, are quite loose. Do you reckon that that sort of culture of like being stoic and honoured and sort of very polite leads to a sort of repression for the more hedonic sort of aspects of their psychology? So when they get on it, they're like,
I think so. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, it almost looks like you work to, like, you're working to live, really, rather than like they live to work rather than, you know, working to then live and be able to express themselves. So it's, yeah, I just think that's a culture, and that's how they do things. They're very respectful. They won't speak up against their elders. But when you've got a happy hour from 2 to 4, at the end of that 2 hours, I reckon 50% of them have probably pissed their pants and they're on their train going home, whereas the foreigners are just starting to build into it. So yeah, it was good though. Like, I just think they're unbelievable people. They're super friendly. Never had a bad word to say, and not that I could understand anyway. Like, everything seemed pretty positive, but yeah, it was a really cool experience.
Anyone that talks about Japan, we asked whether you were a big onsen man. Did you like it? Did you like the onsens?
Oh,
yeah.
mate, how could you not?
Oh,
Unbelievable. Yeah, they
Makes you feel like a man as well.
Occasionally, yeah.
makes you feel like a man. Oh,
Do you not feel like one normally?
No, no.
Yeah,
But hey,
me either.
trimming that bush can do a lot of wonders in an onsen.
Yeah, I'll give you a
Bit of
little bit more
horticulture.
Yeah.
You're heading out there to do a series with your old mate, Genia, I believe, for RugbyPass. So everyone should keep their eyes and ears peeled for that coming soon. You've been absolutely incredible. Obviously, we can't keep you all day, annoyingly, because these guys have to go to work as well. But let's finish with our quick fire round. So just first thing which comes to your head. Firstly, who's going to win the World Cup?
Australia.
Genia or Gregan?
Oh, I've got to say Genia. But I love Greaves. Like, this is, see, I'm doing stuff with Willie Close, so this is a bit of a setup.
Best player you ever played against?
Probably John de Villiers.
Yeah.
Probably asked a lot.
Yeah, one of those two. Fuck.
Best player you've played alongside?
George Smith.
And finally, 3 people in a cab with you for the ultimate night out, the ultimate piss up.
Drew Mitchell, Adam Ashley Cooper, Will Chambers.
Oh, Christ.
Incredible. Well, sadly, that's all we've got time for this week. Thank you so much to Ryan, Max, and of course, Gits. And we will see you all next week.